Ok, estamos aquí. Bienvenidos, bienvenidas. Muchas gracias por estar aquí. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being today on this live stream. Just let me do some clarifications in Spanish before we start ahead. Chicos, chicas, muchas gracias por venir al directo de hoy. Hoy lo vamos a hacer en inglés. Normalmente es en español, pero hoy lo vamos a hacer en inglés porque el invitado es en inglés y esta sesión es en inglés. Así que si no tienes problema con el inglés, perfecto, quédate que te va a interesar. Y si no, pues quédate también porque, como se suele decir, haces oído. Okay, so the clarifications have been set. Thank you all for being there. Thank you, Maria, Daniel, Roy, Mark. I see you there. Duban. Hello, everybody. We are live on YouTube. We are live on LinkedIn, and we're live on Twitch as well. And I'm super excited about today. I was really looking forward to this day, and it's going to be a really good session because we have a very special guest today. I will be introducing him in a minute. But first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who is subscribed to the channel or just hit the like button here because the channel is now over 5K subscribers, which is something that I never really dared to dream about, and it's been just fantastic to have such a faithful audience, such faithful subscribers, and I'm really happy about it, and it wouldn't have been possible without your support. But other than that, today we're having a very special streaming because, as I was explaining before in Spanish, we usually do things in the channel here in Spanish, but today our guest is an English speaker, so we're going to have it in English, but it's going to be awesome as well in English. And yeah, sometimes it's very nice to do this for a broader audience or for the international audience to do some live streams for everybody to understand, not just a Spanish-speaking audience, but for everybody to understand. And today's topic is about governance, Power Platform governance. I think this is something that if you are an admin and you're really in charge of this kind of stuff, sometimes you might find yourself like kind of alone because it's not something that is so talked about in the community, because we usually talk about maker stuff, but this is a really interesting topic, or for me it's an interesting topic because I'm not in charge myself of something related to admin and governance, but I'm very curious about this kind of stuff. I've been in touch with many experts in the field, and I think it's really interesting for makers, even for makers, to know what's happening behind the scenes when you try to do some connections maybe in a Power Automate flow, and suddenly you cannot do it because there's something called policy running behind the scenes, and hey, who said that? That's kind of the thing. And so I think it's regardless of your role in this amazing world of Power Platform, I think it's a very interesting topic that it's important to know about for everybody. Okay, but you're not here to listen to me, or mainly not to listen to me. You are here to listen to our very special guest. His name is Valentin Mazhar, and yeah, he's a really cool guy. Knows quite a few things about Power Platform and specifically about governance and admin. So I'm really happy to have him today in this live stream. Valentin, you're on. People can see you now.
Hello. Super nice to be here. Thank you, Nacho, for inviting me there. It's my first YouTube live, so I feel a bit nervous, but I'm super happy to be here.
We are among friends. I can tell you that because I see the names on the chat, and for instance, Israel, Alberto, these are usual suspects of the channel, and they're very faithful. They come to live streams usually, and yeah, they're seasoned people, and they're, as I said, friends. And yeah, you're gonna be relaxed, like at home with a coffee in your hand, and yeah, just sit and chill because this is gonna be really cool. So I want to start talking to you, but at the same time I see people joining the session. David, Carolina, hello, thank you for coming here. So yeah, I will be jumping in and out of talking to the audience, to interacting with the chat, because it's one of the best things about doing live streams, to have people connected at the same time. Iñaki, hello, thank you for dropping by. But other than that, Valentin, introduce yourself, please. Tell us who you are.
Sure. So I'm Valentin, as you rightly introduced me, but people usually call me Val. I'm French, but my partner is British, and I know from experience for people in England or Spain, pronouncing my name is pronounced Valentin in French, but it's not the easiest to pronounce for everyone. So Val just works perfectly. Um, but yeah, I'm based in Barcelona, so it's a shame I'm not able to speak Spanish better. Hopefully, maybe in a year or two, I'll be able to do these kind of things in Spanish. But for today, I definitely feel more comfortable doing it in English. And I love Barcelona. I was living in London before. We moved during lockdown. Barcelona is a very nice place to live, especially when everything is closed outside because you still get the beach and the mountain. And my journey with the Power Platform started quite a while ago now. So it was about 5 years ago. I was
Mhm.
working as an IT manager for a small subsidiary in a larger group. And I
Mhm.
had a lot of IT hats. You know, I was the guy who will tell you to turn your laptop off and on again to try to see if it works. Trying to establish like global initiative and trying to make them happen locally in the subsidiary, and also trying to improve the local business processes locally. And this
Mhm.
is where I discovered the platform. I was alone. I didn't have any developers at hand, and I discovered the Power Platform then, and I absolutely loved it, and I made it my job. So that's about me.
I can relate to that. Yeah, back in the early days of the Power Platform, and I don't want to play here like I'm a grandpa talking about the early days, but because then people that used to work with CRM will jump in and say, "Hey, you are not old, I'm old," and I don't want to get into that fight.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
They are the older people. But in my case, yeah, Power Platform was released, if I'm not mistaken, technically, or if I want to be really exact, by the end of 2016, December 2016. But it really started to make some sort of impact or some discovery by people within organizations in 2017, 2018 mainly. I think that's when things started to get some traction there. And yeah, it's I get a feeling of kind of being alone to feel like, hey, am I the only one person interested in this thing in the organization? I can relate to that because I couldn't imagine what kind of journey I was starting myself. And just like you did, I turned it into my job as well, and it's been an amazing journey. But have you been? I guess from the very beginning, you were not involved in governance stuff. How long have you
Exactly.
been
Yeah,
involved in governance stuff?
no, I started really on the maker side. So I was the guy, my worst nightmare today. It's how I really started. The guy who wants to do everything, doesn't want any restriction, doesn't really care about governance. All I wanted to do was to make stuff for the business locally. And I
Hmm.
did, because there was not any governance team for the Power Platform then. So, I played a lot around and did a lot of stuff and lots of great stuff, but there wasn't any governance in that organization at that time. um, and then I wanted to focus more on the Power Platform, and I found a new opportunity, which was actually to build this center of excellence, or build this governance team for the Power Platform. So I switched right from the maker shoes to the governance shoes, and all of a sudden my vision really shifted. My perspective on what the platform is, and it changes a lot when you move from how can I make stuff myself to how do I make the platform successful in the organization. So it was really interesting for me, and I'm loving it now. But I started as a maker.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I feel your way as well. I think um, it's good to see things from both sides. Well, more people are joining. Benjamin, Guillermo, Luis Enrique. There is this. I don't know why. Sometimes when people text on or chat on LinkedIn, I don't get the name. In this case, it's LinkedIn user. I don't know who you are, but he or she said, "Hola guys, will the event be recorded?" Yes, because this is we're live on Twitch, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn as well. So you can find it especially in YouTube. That's where you will be able to find the recording. So yes, I know it's here in Spain. It's 5 p.m. I guess we will have. Last time I did something in English, I had people from New Zealand. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, things will be recorded. So in case you are tangled up with things at work or whatever, I totally understand, and you can watch the stream later on on YouTube. But other than that, yeah, you mentioned Center for Enablement, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's a very good thing that you brought that up, because I'm going to share my screen. Yes, here we have it. I'm going to share my screen because I was, looking for topics to talk about with you during the live stream, and coincidentally enough, I found myself with this post from Steve Mordew. He's an MVP. I think I'm going to be able to share my screen now. Okay, there you go. So he says, I cannot zoom in right now, but he says, Center of Excellence versus Center for Enablement/engagement. Understand the differences. It says, you may have heard the terms Center of Excellence or Center for Enablement around Microsoft's Pool platform and thought they were the same thing. I'm guilty of that. I thought it was the same thing, actually, or some sort of similar version to it. And then he dives into the differences about it. And yeah, we have you here, Val, with us. And yeah, you can wait in whenever you want. But Steve says, instituting data security regarding the Center of Excellence is about instituting data security and compliance policies, defending consistent architectures, models, and standards, managing solution lifecycle and change control processes, monitoring performance, adoption, and ROI, providing training materials and technical support. That for the Center of Excellence. And the Center for Enablement, it's more about evangelizing capabilities to users across the business, encouraging ideation and identifying opportunities, providing enablement workshops and hackathons, supplying reusable templates, components, and tools, and showcasing successes and lessons learned. For those of us who have read or know about the maturity model and the Power Platform adoption practices provided by Microsoft, this is my impression, you can correct me, but for me, it's still, you can have a Center of Excellence, and the Center for Enablement is more related to the nurturing part. I don't know if I'm misled here, or is it the same thing or not? How do you see this differentiation between Center for Enablement and Center of Excellence?
Oh, it's really interesting you're bringing that up, because I'm also guilty of the confusion as you, because for me, I was just of the assumption that people either call it Center for Enablement or Center for Excellence or different names, that it was just a term they use. I still think that some people today might call their team the Center of Excellence for the Power Platform, and they might do everything that you see listed on that post. So I don't really know. I understand what's mentioned by Steve Mordew here in the article. I see those stream of work as separate, but I think that in practice, very often they'll be done by the same people, at least to a certain point of adoption, I guess. But I mean, those two, I guess if there's a real topic around governance and how do you govern the platform and how do you define all those policies with the processes, if people need an environment or additional connectors, how do you govern this in the organization? And I see the difference with separately, you want to make sure the platform is adopted. So as you said, there's all the nurturing, how do you make sure they're aware of who can support them, of the tools available to them? Some people are still using Excel, VBA, or lots of different tools, or how do you encourage them to go away from those tools or understand what is on offer with the Power Platform? And I see that sometimes in practice is done by different teams. You have a team for the nurturing and adoption part, and you have a team for the security and governance part. And I think in some other organization it's merged. Whether they merged or not, if they're separate, I think they really need to talk to each other a lot, because you don't want to encourage adoption for some things that are not enabled in the organization. So there's definitely a lot of synergies between the two. Um, but I also, it's recently, I was talking with some other organizations, and some of them were talking about the Center for Enablement, some of the Center of Excellence. And this is as well at that time, that was like, oh, they really use different terms to designate this different type of work. And it makes sense. I think I'm going to adopt those two terms now.
Yeah, it makes sense because, for instance, in the bullet points for the Center for Enablement or Center for Engagement, Steve says evangelizing capabilities or encouraging ideation, and it's like empowering people, nurturing people. That for me relates to nurturing, but at the same time he says supplying reusable templates, components, and tools. I think this is towards efficiency. This is not so much about engaging people. It's more about, hey, do not reinvent the wheel if we already have something to perform this business logic, or to solve this situation. So yeah, I guess, and you can tell me better about it, but I guess it also really depends on the organization. For instance, for me, I found in the past that some organizations think or thought at first that having a center of excellence means installing the COE starter kit, and boom, voila. Yesterday I didn't have a center of excellence. Now I do have one, but I don't think that's the case. How do you see it?
No, I mean, I think the COE kit, some organizations are really against using it for one. So I know that some companies really don't want to use the COE kit. There's lots of different reasons why they might not want to use it. And some of the companies completely swear by it. And I think the COE kit is a great capability, but I don't think it's enough. If you were to install it for your tenant, it's definitely not going to be enough. You need to configure it. You need to make sure it's going to fit to the organization. You might set up you've got lots of tenant restrictions and things to configure on the platform that you can't do with the kit. And every time you restrict something, you need to have a strategy with regards to, can you enable it in some situation, never, how? So you really need to define all those processes and this governance strategy around it. In my experience, the COE kit is a great component of that, or can be has the potential of being a great component of that, but it's definitely not sufficient, or not in my opinion, or not from what I've seen.
For me, if I, for instance, if I just ran into an organization I don't or I haven't known until now, and they tell me they have a center of excellence, what I would ask first to know if that's true, or is this that they somehow or someday they just install the COE starter kit and boom, they did nothing else. My first question would be, how many people are there behind the center of excellence? And if the answer is none, I will know there's no center of excellence at all, because what I've seen so far is that you need to put people behind it. It doesn't work automatically in any way. And can you tell us like how time consuming or how much effort it takes to not just set it up, not just to establish a center of excellence for a large organization at the enterprise level, but also how much effort it takes and how much time it takes to keep it updated, to keep it useful for the organization? How much does it take, based on your experience?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's funny because I wrote actually an article about this in general, some general advice to start with to establish the Power Platform in an organization. And I don't think there's a definite answer. It definitely starts by defining what are the objectives of the organization. Some company, they might not believe in the Power Platform. And maybe the only thing they want to make sure is that, restrict it as much as possible and never enable anything. And if that's the case, then you don't need much effort. You just need to set up those restrictions. You kind of turn it off and you never have to think about turning it on again. And that's a decision that some companies are allowed to make. And in that case, the efforts are very small. So it depends on really what's the strategy. Some companies are not interested in citizen development, for instance, and they want to use it as pro dev tool for their delivery team, their IT teams. So the efforts will be different. If you want them to adopt the technology, they already are familiar with concept, application lifecycle management, and all those different developer concept. So it's not going to be the same effort as if you want to make it a widely used platform in the organization. So it's really hard, and it will depend on the size of the company as well, of course. So it's really hard
Yeah.
to estimate right now. I think the first step is defining the objectives, and from that you can kind of estimate how much effort is gonna take. But something I've seen in my experience is to not underestimate the effort needed around communication. And that's something I've
True
I've
to
I've
that.
seen, and I've been suffering through that realization because I love the platform. I'm a bit of a techie and a geek. I love playing with the platform, and I didn't realize how much effort you actually need to speak with the people, to present, to promote, to organize events, and all that part. I guess that's what Steve Mordew puts under Center for Enablement. That's definitely something that takes a lot of time if you want to increase the adoption in a faster rate.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes for me, it's also about, you can do nurturing or evangelizing, or really making important efforts on um, increasing the adoption of the Power Platform within the organization. But sometimes it's also about measuring the right way what is the return of that investment on effort and everything else that comes with that effort.
Mm,
But for me, well, it depends. You said before that sometimes the Power Platform is used just from an IT perspective, just to do some pro development. Um, but in the Power Platform spirit is the citizen developer is in the Power Platform spirit at the heart of the Power Platform. And I think the impact in a given organization to have citizen developers, to have different champions scattered across different business units. I think that's something that is well, I'm not going to say it's never measured, but if we measure that, the impact or the savings on maybe some citizen developer solution that may not be perfect, but enough to solve the business logic or the business situation.
mm,
Um,
mm.
the savings regarding of hiring someone to do it in a pro code development and stuff, that's something that is worth measuring, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that's a bit almost a controversial topic, the return of investment for the Power
Yes.
Platform. Is citizen development a myth, that doesn't really provide value? And there's lots of debate. And
Yes.
I I personally am convinced by the value that the platform can bring within citizen developer, within non-IT people. But I think that the
Mm.
value you will get from that is contingent upon the governance and the nurturing and all the efforts that
Yeah.
are invested by the company. I don't think that it's a matter of
Mm.
turning it on and then the value will flow. I think it's kind of a
Yeah.
double-edged sword. If not done well, it can create a lot of problems. We've all
Yes.
seen what happened if you have an Excel with some VBA macro in it, and then it's been around for years, and the only person who knew how it works leave, and as soon as they leave, it doesn't work anymore, and there was critical processes around HR management. I mean, we've seen what happened, and that definitely can happen with the Power Platform as well if it's not
Mhm.
properly governed. And the other thing I think around that, the ROI, is if you do a complex IT-led product or application that you develop with the Power Platform, you're going to have, it's probably going to be easier to invest in, to calculate, to estimate, how much value you're gaining with that solution, how much time you saved with it, or how much saving you can do on IT infrastructure by migrating to the Power Platform. There's all those scenarios, but you're going to be able to quantify them. But
Mhm.
with citizen development, the problem is that at the level of one application, it's usually quite small, and it's usually quite hard to quantify because maybe they started to build something, but they didn't really take the temperature before so that they can say how much value
Yeah.
they're gaining. Or maybe it's about something that didn't exist before and that is only possible with the Power Platform. So it's really hard to estimate the value of one solution, but it will typically
Mhm.
be, I would say, in my opinion, lower than the big IT project led by delivery teams. But it's when you think about the mass, if you have thousands and thousands of those applications, if people in their team, in finance or in marketing. They're able to save hours every day with automating their communication, digitally some processes. When you look at the mass, then the value becomes a lot higher, but still very hard to
Yes.
measure. And I think that's a
Yes.
challenge that lots of companies are having. How can you say today how much value you're gaining out of the platform? Because it's very easy to know how much it costs us. You know the license cost, you know how many people are working to govern the platform and in the COEs or Center for Enablement. But how much value you're getting out of all these efforts is not always easy to measure accurately.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard to measure. Maybe, as you said, maybe even impossible in some cases. Um, but for those of us who are really involved in the Power Platform, we know it's like a lot. It's a no-brainer for us that we are inside. But sometimes you need to sell the ideas to get support. Like, for instance, the value that for those of us who again, we are involved in the Power Platform ecosystem, we know how much value having a center of excellence or center for enablement engagement brings to organization. But sometimes you need to sell it the right way to the stakeholders or people who need to back up that plan, that idea. But yeah, one of the things we really went to the topics right ahead. I knew this was going to happen, but I'm going to stop for a very, very short moment saying that the name of this stream is Governance Gifts for Power Platform Admins with Val Mazhar. And so I'm going to put a little banner here talking about gifts in a minute or in a few minutes. So we're going to be talking about that because one of the things you did very well here on the live stream, you said it's your first live stream, but you seem like a pro because you already put on your subtitle portfix.io, which is kind of promoting your, well, not kind of promoting your own website, because you recently started a blog in which you share your experience, your thoughts, your ideas about governing the Power Platform. And I think you are sharing your screen right now with your website. So I'm going to put that also on the screen so everybody can see it. And tell us about what we can find here in portrix.io. Because I
Yeah,
think it's well, I'm not gonna play here like I don't know the website. I've been there a few times now, but please make it as if it's my first time.
sure. So firstly, and I think the community is fantastic with any kind of maker stuff. You know, if you want to build a solution as a maker, there's so much content, so many MVPs like yourself and some others, and bloggers, and you usually find what you need super quickly. I don't even need to write notes. You know, sometimes there's things I always forget how to do, like what's the formula to get the run URL of a flow, for instance. I don't really have to save it somewhere because I know that I can Google it and get it straight away. But in terms of administration and governance and COEs and Center for Enablement, I haven't found so much content out there. But whenever I talk to another company, I always find, you know, we all have the same problems and the same issues. So I thought it's something I feel very passionate about now. And I thought maybe I could just start my own blog. And that's something I have contemplated for a while, and starting to blog some articles and maybe some reusable tools that I could share with the community to kind of give back everything I receive as a maker. Maybe I could try to give it back as an admin. And genuinely, it's a bit of a mix. It's only about 10 article now, I think. I started that in September. And I'm trying to do a bit of a mix between some tools that can be installed and reused or Power BI template, and some more general advice around the organization. Because something else I found is, as I said earlier, I'm a bit of a tech guy. I like the tech, I like playing with the tools. But there's all the human part around it. You know, who are the people managing the platform in that organization? What's the operational model to manage all of this? So it's kind of the two main things I'm trying to blog about, but it's very new. So I'm new to blogging. I'm new to sharing my content out there. So it's a bit of a trial and error kind of journey.
Um,
Um, mm,
it always is when it comes to content creation. But I will go ahead and ask for anybody who is right now on the live chat, or I would totally recommend for anybody who's on the live chat right now, or maybe if you're watching this stream on demand, maybe later on, to follow it, because I really, really think this is one of those blogs in which it's real value what's behind every blog post, not just because there are gifts that we're going to be talking about in a minute, but also because these things, these topics we are talking about, and sometimes we mentioned at the very beginning of the stream that you may feel a little bit lonely trying to tackle some of the challenges that come up when you are trying to make some governance, some administration of the Power Platform. Some of them are covered and now in some of the articles that you already posted, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be doing that in the future. Some people here in the chat, well, we were talking about the starter kit before. Alberto said we were talking about the COE starter kit, and Alberto said it's a starter kit, not the definitive kit. Yeah, just like that's true. And here, Mac Mario said, you got to start with real world cases, then it's easy to measure. Talking about measuring the impact of citizen developer creations. Create a CRM and substitute SAP. CRM boom, big value. I think that's not something that you can do in a Sunday afternoon. But if you were able to manage that, pull that one out, it would be something really, really awesome. Okay, so yeah, can you show us some, maybe if you need to prepare, I'm going to take out the screen for a moment, and it's just us again, but if you want to, toggle through some tabs or whatever to prepare for the gifts, because as Israel said before, this is the reason why we are here, Nacho, we are here for the gifts. So
Sure.
let's just go ahead and share your screen. I'm putting back to the stage, and please tell us about the first gift that you have for us.
All right. So this first one is what I call the DLP policy toolbox. So there's two. So DLP policies, for the ones not familiar, is what allow you to enable or block the connectors on each environment. So it's a very cornerstone of the governance strategy for the Power Platform, because you don't want to allow everyone to use all the connectors available, which could be a risk for data leak and other things. So you can manage the DLP policies from the admin center and create DLP policies, classify the connectors. And today we have about 1,000 connectors, 1,000 plus connectors available. So when you will create a DLP policy from scratch, you will need to define each connector. Do you want to enable or block them, basically, in a nutshell? And that can be tedious, because if you have hundreds of environments and you want to create a new DLP policy, it's going to take some time to create that DLP and classify all the connectors. So here, the first tool of this toolbox is the DLP duplicator, which allows you to browse for the existing DLP on your tenant. And by the way, everything I'm showing is on a test personal tenant, so there's nothing confidential, nothing. I'm happy to share everything here. And you can see on the left, I have 4 DLP policies on that tenant. It's a very small tenant that I'm using for some testing exploration. And whenever you select a DLP policy, you will see some general configuration. So in that case, that's the name of my DLP policy. It's called all connectors. That's the date when it was created. The default group. So by default, they're classified in a certain category, which is the non-business. And it's a DLP when you have to select all the environments applied where you apply that DLP. And it tells you which environment I included in that DLP policy. Now, if I go in the connectors tab, I can see that there's about, in that case, all the connectors are enabled in the business data category. Maybe we can go to another one, like the random policy. And in this case, there's only 276 connectors enabled and 828 blocked. Let's say that I want to create a new policy with 1 or 2 connectors enabled on top that I would want to move from the blocked to the business category. If I have to do it from the admin center, I need to create the DLP from scratch. But what I can do here instead is duplicate it. I will define a name like random2. I will select an environment. You need to at least have one environment to duplicate it. So let's say this random environment, and then I will click duplicate. And this is copying that DLP policies under a new name called random2 that we see showing on the left. And you can now open, for instance, that DLP on the admin center by clicking the open button. This is the
Oh.
DLP that was created. You can maybe change the name, and you can change the connector. So in that case, let's go to the 828 connectors, move this connector to business, and update the DLP policy. And you will then have the DLP set up already. So in only a few clicks, you've duplicated the DLP and you have maybe assigned it to some other environments, and that allows admin to save some time. So that's the first tool of the toolbox. The other tool is the DLP finder. So something really tricky is it's not recommended to apply different DLP policies to the same environment because the behavior is quite complex to anticipate. So you really want one DLP applied to each environment. It can be the same DLP applied to several environments, but you want to each environment, you only want one DLP policy applied. That's what I would recommend to manage DLP policies. The problem is there's not an easy way from the admin center to know if I give you an environment to find out which DLP is applied to that environment. Now, Microsoft know that that's a problem, so they implemented it as a feature for managed environments, but we know that managed environments can have some license implications that are not acceptable for all the organizations, at least maybe not in their maturity journey. So the DLP finder, you will select an environment and it will tell you which DLP is applied to that environment. And in that case, on my personal productivity environment, I can see that I have two DLP applied, which is not good. You can see that there's the all connectors DLP. It is applied to that environment because that environment is included in it. So if I click on that button, it will show up the DLP. And if I go on the environment, I will see that my personal productivity environment is added. So this is why it's showing. And there's another one, a default policy applied to all environments, and this environment is not excluded. So if I open this DLP, I will also see that the personal productivity environment is not in the exclusion list. So as an admin, this allows me to know in a second that I need to exclude the personal productivity, for instance, if I want to make sure only one DLP is applied. And I go back here, and if I refresh, I only have one DLP applied now. And in this one, I see that I don't have any DLP applied, which is another another problem. So you definitely want to make sure that one of the DLP, maybe this, that same one that we've updated, is applying to that environment. That's kind of the first tool. It's all available on my GitHub repository, and you can find it from the article that I wrote to explain how to use this. And I give the link to the GitHub. You have the managed solution and the unmanaged one if you want to customize it. You can define, the logo, the colors, if you want to change the formatting. And it's only using free cloud flows called from the app for performance reason. If you have a small tenant, you don't really need. You could implement everything within the app. But when you have a lot of apps and flows and lots of environments and DLPs, then you will have some issues. So it's only using free flows, one app, and one connection, the Power Platform for Admin connector. So it's actually all standard. So you don't need any premium license to use this. You only need a user with the tenant administrator role, the Power Platform administrator role, so that you can actually do all those operations.
Very cool. I really like it's a small detail, but small details sometimes tell you that there's a lot of, or there's really thought and effort behind something that's been built. In this case, this DLP policy toolbox, and which is the shortcuts to the admin center. Because sometimes when you are working in Power Platform, sometimes you really need to. I will put a very straightforward example that probably pretty much everybody can relate to, which is how many times do we hit publish the solution to ensure the changes are in place. So you really like to see things. Okay, right now I have this beautiful interface in which I'm managing all my DLP policy stuff. but I want to see that also in the Power Platform admin center interface as well. So I think that's something that is a small detail that I like that, and I think really this really helps on managing all the DLPs through the different environments, because as you said before, when you have many environments, it can get heavy to manage all that. So really cool, really cool. I really like it, and yeah, please let me know your thoughts, or let us know your thoughts here on the chat. Aitor joined. Hello, Aitor. Israel said, I don't know anything about governance. I'm a maker, but I see you like the guys who private our freedom. Well, I would say that it's not about about forbidding. It's about making sure nobody makes a mistake.
Exactly. So it's funny because I was really feeling like Israel before, and now that for me it's all about enabling is the exact opposite. So by making sure things are governed properly and secure in the right way, this is what allows the organization to make the tools available. And lots of companies are still saying today we don't use it at all because it's too risky, too dangerous. So for me, it's like the more secure and governed it is, the more it allows you to actually make it available and leverage it. So I completely understand that perspective. I had the same before, and I switched side.
In a different live stream, we will decide which is the dark side, whether the maker or the governance. But actually, it's more about collaborating. Actually, in the end, is about, hey, I know that it can be a little bit frustrating to not being able to use a connector in a given flow because you are kind of mixing things. But if you stop and think about things calmly, you can come up with the thought of, okay, maybe this is because for a given reason, for whatever the reason it is, they are saving my ass. Because if you are trying to mixing things and tweeting about confidential data, even if you are able to do that, trust me, you don't want to do that. So yeah, it's a good thing for everybody. Also, LinkedIn user, I don't know if this is Anas who said this. This LinkedIn user that shows up in the chat, but he or she said, "What about DLP impact analysis available in the Center of Excellence toolkit?"
And
Your thoughts about it?
that's a very good point. And actually, what I created here, I really didn't want to reinvent something that was already existing. So for me, this DLP impact analysis part of the COE kit is great. It allows you to anticipate any issues if you make a change in the DLP, to anticipate in advance how is that going to impact the existing flows and app. And I think that's a fantastic functionality. And I really didn't want to recreate something here that was already existing. I think it's definitely not what would allow you to manage DLP for every operations. It's really I really isolated those two scenarios that I didn't find anywhere else. So how to duplicate a DLP and how to identify the DLPs applying to an environment. But all those other tools and the admin center and the COE kit, I see them as complementary. But I agree that DLP impact analysis, I think, is great. I think it's a really great tool.
Okay, I haven't tried myself, but I will trust what you. I will trust your feelings on it, because last time I dived into the COE starter kit, maybe it was a year and a half ago, and I think, well, actually the wizard was not there yet. You have to do this kind of painful installation of the COE starter kit. Last time I went through it, but yeah, things. It's such an amazing tool. Alberto said, "Raise the hand who have tried Valentin's solutions," and then he went with the emoji here. So he tried them, and I'm happy about that, because I'm gonna do a little bit of parenthesis here to share my screen, because Alberto himself is sharing his knowledge about governance. He's an admin of the platform himself for an enterprise, and he has a lot of experience. And he recently started also creating some content. In his case, in YouTube here, as you can see, I have pending his last video. And since I'm here, I will recommend also Mariam B. She started to upload videos a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, go for it. And also Board Quiz, which is about a contest about Power Platform. All these are in Spanish. Sorry about that, but you know, it's worth to be subscribed to these amazing content creators, because they really put good insights of the Power Platform for everybody, available for everybody in this. In this case, YouTube, or in your case, your website, your blog is just amazing that you're sharing your knowledge, your experience, your expertise with us, because it really helps the community overall.
I watched Alberto's first video, actually. I think it was the launch, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very good practice for my Spanish, and I'm gonna keep watching them. I understood all of it, and it was super clear. So definitely gonna watch this
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Definitely. Sometimes when people ask me, "Hey, do you do some content in English?" I say no. But if you want to learn Power Platform and Spanish at the same time, drop by, because you're gonna be doing both.
Better than Duolingo.
Yeah, definitely. Aitor says Alberto Castro knows a thing or two, and Alberto himself said this night he's going to be releasing a new video. Will be there. Okay, so LinkedIn user also said, I would also recommend your app for organization not using the COE starter kit. Yes, definitely. You can leverage Val's app, because it would be yes, definitely something worth giving a try. And Alberto said, this is the best feedback, learn Spanish with me. Okay.
Claro que sí.
Claro que sí. That's it. Okay,
That's
so
it.
back to your screen. Do you have? I think maybe by the time you show us 2 or 3 gifts, maybe you start feeling like Santa.
Yeah, I can.
But in November.
Yeah, I can show this other one. So this one actually has a dependency on the COE kit. So it will need to be installed on an environment where the COE kit is installed. And the idea is to make ownership management easier. So in the COE kit, there are already some great flows and a process built by the PowerCat team that allows you to automate some actions if a flow become orphaned. So meaning if the creator of the flow left the company, you have something in the kit that will send a request to I think the manager and ask them if what they want to do with those abandoned flow. And that's great, but there was still situation I was experiencing when you still need, as an admin, an easy way to be able to reassign flow or app to someone else. Maybe someone is still in the company but on long-term leave. Maybe, I don't know, there's something unplanned and they're not available, and you really need someone else really need to take a look at this app or at this flow to modify it. So I call this one the ownership toolbox, and what it allows you to do is really to select some flows and reassign them to someone else. So the way it works, in that case, we're looking at the apps, and it's a 6-step process. The first one is to select a maker, the current owner of those flows. So if it's someone who left the company, you will look for them. And this is connecting to the COE kit tables in Dataverse. So you need a premium license to use the app. If you have a lot of makers, you will need to pre-filter the name of the maker for some delegation topic and so on. But in our case, it's such a small tenant. So let's look at all the apps that I have created. So you will select the current owner and then select the environment. Let's say maybe Powertrix. And this will show you all the apps on that environment created by that maker. And you can maybe click here to check who has access to it. So if I click on this icon, it will show me all the current owners of that application. In that case, we have 3. Maybe you realize you want to remove someone and Johnny doesn't need access to that app. So I can click stop sharing and it will automatically remove the permissions on that app. And what you can do is you can select all the apps you want to assign, and you can select a new owner. So let's look at maybe share them with Miriam. With the Canvas app, you can also change the main owner of the application if you want. So that's the name showing from Power Apps, the created by, that is not always easy to change. In that case, we just want to add them as co-owner, we're fine. And we're going to click Update Ownership. And what it's doing is it's using the connector in the background, Power Apps for Admin connector, I think, just to update the permissions on all those apps. And now if I go back to my ownership DLP Policy Toolbox app, I can see that Miriam is now a co-owner with can edit rights on that app. So here the idea was really we have, quite often you see someone who maybe change job in the organization and go to another department, and you need to reassign everything that they have to someone else. And at the moment, without this, I didn't really find some easy way to do it. You could create a flow, create a script, and all of this. But with that app, the objective is to make it a lot simpler. You select who, and then you select the current owner, the environment. You select if you want to share all the apps, you can, and then select the new owner, and you click on Update Ownership. And it's the same principle with the cloud flows, where you can select the current owner, the environment, and you can also see who has access to it. In that case, we're using the Power Automate for Admin connector or Power Automate Management connector. Select the new owner. Let's use Nestor. These are all test names from the test tenant, by the way. I'm not giving away anyone's identity here. And if I click Update Ownership,
because when you search by a specific user, and the applications or cloud flows that are shown are those where he or she is the owner, or also co-owner, because I saw it said can edit, right?
Exactly. So here, when you select the maker, you will see all the apps. That's a good question, actually. I think you will only see the apps that they're the main owner of. So if they're only a co-owner, exactly. If they're only a co-owner of a flow or an app, you will not see those flow app listed there. You will really see what for which app or flow they appear as the main owner, which is basically like the creator of those objects. And here, if we have a look, normally Nestor should have access as can edit on that flow, on all those flows, actually. So here you do need a premium license, and you also, because it's connecting to Dataverse, and you also need to have the COE kit installed. So it's just here to complement the COE kit in that case, to allow ownership management a little bit easier.
Yeah, but it's good because you're able now to manage ownerships in bulk, which is something that it can be a pain if we're talking about here maybe a champion who has been making a lot of stuff for the last couple of years. There are some really prolific people in organizations that really create a lot of stuff in a given year. So yeah, I think it really helps. It really helps to manage these things and do not spend a lot of time micromanaging this kind of situation. So I think it's great. And as asked, can it change primary ownership too? For instance, a direct owner?
Yes, so you can actually, but only for the apps. I didn't find a way to do it programmatically for the flows, but we can have a look actually. So if I select the apps on PowerTricks created by me, and if I look at this app, test ownership change, I look at the moment, Valentin Mazhar is the main owner, and all the others are co-owners because they have the can edit permission. If I want, I can select it, select the new owner, let's say Megan, and I can change that toggle to say I want them as the main owner. If I click Update Ownership, what it's going to do is, oh, I actually have an error there. The user is
demo
not
effect.
part. Exactly, the user is not part of the environment, it seems. But let's maybe check with Pradeep. So Pradeep is a co-owner, and I want to see if I can make Pradeep the main owner of that application. And let's see if it works. And if not, that will be a Yeah, it looks like it's a good bug for me to investigate. Last time I checked, it was working fine. So, but the idea is that it should change the main owner and make the previous main owner. Oh, actually, it did work because we see now
Mhm.
Megan is the main owner of the application and also Pradeep. So there's definitely something wrong going there. So I will need to check this. Thank you
Okay,
for pointing that out.
it's great. I thought it asks only one owner at a time.
Normally,
Uh,
yes. So I'm a bit surprised to why we see this one now with two owners. Actually, it's back to only one owner with Pradeep. Um,
mhm.
Maybe we can do another test. So if I select that app and select myself to put me back as the main owner, check before. Pradeep is the main owner. Miriam is co-owner. I add myself as the main owner. Let's see if this time it works. Maybe some.
Fingers crossed.
Let's cross fingers.
By the way, Jorge
Hey,
is here.
that this time it works. So that's the turn off and on effect, you see? And if I check,
Yes.
I might need to refresh. Let's do just a reset and check again. So if I check on that environment and select the test ownership change app, no, it doesn't look like it worked as expected. So definitely a bug for me to investigate there.
Okay, so yeah, some fine tuning there. But other than that, I think the solution is it really. I think this is you can tell like what we saw that this application or this solution comes from really experiencing the pain of having to reassign flows and apps in a real scenario one by one, and yeah, it really helps. There are some things that you have to consider, like you said, having premium license and the COE starter kit installed beforehand. But if you already are in that situation, it's a really nice thing to have. And if we're done with this one, do you have one last gift to show us? Maybe.
Yeah, I've got
Okay.
another one. Let's move on to the Power Platform Admin Center reports extractor.
Okay.
So from the Power Platform Admin Center, if you go under the capacity tab under resources, there is a button that fairly recently appeared to download reports. And if you click on it,
Mhm.
you'll arrive here and it will allow you to download some tenant consumption report. For instance, you can download AI Builder consumption report or Power Platform request to follow API calls consumption in the tenant. And when you click submit, what it will do is it will prepare a CSV report. Let's go here, which is now in progress of being generated. And if I refresh, it is now completed. You can download it, and it's a CSV file that will contain all the Power Platform API calls from each user on each environment on each day in the last 30 days. This is great information because you can then connect some Power BI to it to assess whether you're above your request entitlements or to just to follow the really activity of the platform. So this is really
Mhm.
useful information. And there's an other gift, the Power BI template that I'm sharing so that you can report on those things. But one of the problem is you can only download them from the admin center and it will only give you the last 30 days of data. So if you go on holiday and you forget to download the report, you miss a month, then in your very nice Power BI reporting, you will see a big gap, maybe
What
around
happened
July
here?
or August, because no one downloaded the report. And here I found a solution from someone else. I think I think this is from the PowerCAD team. So big kudos to Nicolas Kierman because this is not something that comes from me.
Mhm.
But I saw that there's an API, a licensing API from the Power Platform that you can use to download those reports every day automatically for 1 day worth of data and store them on SharePoint. So in
Okay.
that solution from Nicolas Kierman, I have his links to his GitHub on my article, so to recognize his work, but he's doing it only for the Power Platform API calls. And so
Mhm.
what I did is I reused his solution. I stole it from him and I just adjusted it so that it stores all the Power Platform tenant consumption report in a SharePoint site. So you have 3 flows, one flow that will run every day and call a child flow for each report to generate them and save them in SharePoint. That principle, again, all comes from Nicholas. And then another flow that we'll talk about in a second. You just have to configure that solution by indicating the SharePoint site that you want to use, the folder path to save each report. And then every day you will have a new report for 1 day worth of data saved in a SharePoint folder. And you can then plug your Power BI report to this to report on that data. Something else I added is the ability, if you want, maybe you want to create a report for, let's say, the Power Platform API calls for licensed users, but you want a specific period, maybe
Yeah.
for the last 3 days from Sunday to today.
Mhm.
If you click submit, it will call that third flow that I didn't talk about too much before that will generate the report just for this time frame. And you can go, I think, up to 45 days worth of data. Now, one problem you might face is that as if you have a large tenant, the generation of the report can take a very long time. So when you generate it automatically just for a day, that will be fine. But when you go for 45 days in a big
Yeah.
organization, it's not going, you're gonna have some issues. So I try to document those issues in the GitHub to explain the different problem you might experience, especially if the file is too big or if you didn't wait enough time to get that report.
Mhm.
But genuinely, for a small tenant like the test tenant that I'm using here, it should normally show up the link of the file and generate it um, in my licensed user folder. But I think it takes at least a minute. So that's something
Mhm.
you configure in the solution. You have that PPAC reports number delay variable, which basically corresponds to how many minutes you wait from the time you request the report to the time you try to get it and save it on SharePoint. So in this
Yeah.
tenant, it's 1 minute, but if you import it in a big tenant, you probably will need to go to maybe 30, 45 minutes. Um, but in that case, it's now done. The report is generated. If I click download, it's going to download the file, but it has also already been saved on this folder. Which one did I download? Licensed user. It's this one probably. No, I'm having some issues to refresh the data. Let me go back to document, be home, and then document again. But we should see that file saved there.
Yeah, but other than that, I'd say that
It's saved
I don't
here.
know if the rest. Yeah, we see it there. I was going to say I just want to say that I don't know if everybody who's following the live stream right now, or maybe if you're watching it later on demand. My thoughts about this are that this is I don't know if you're experiencing it, but we are living right now, as you are doing your explanation, the magic of the community, because you got something that someone else made, you extended it, and now we can say that admins can go on holidays for a whole month, uh, relax, chill during a whole month, because they know that their reports are being generated while they're away. And I think this is one of those many moments in which the community magic happens in for good sake of everybody who is involved in Power Platform, in this case in the governance and administration part of the Power Platform. So this is very cool. I really like it. Please
That's
go on.
great. We all want to go on holidays.
Yes, yes.
But that's pretty much it, really. That's what the solution is. Nicolas Kierman on his GitHub, he also provides his own Power BI template to assess Power Platform request consumption, and it's actually a more elaborated template than the ones I have. So the one he's proposing has a poor apps application embedded in the report. So I really recommend to check it out. And if not, there's the Power BI template that I provide. I provide three at the moment. One for the AI Builder consumption report. So you'd extract that report, put it on a folder, and then you have this Power BI that you can connect to it. One for
Nice.
the API calls, and another
Mhm.
one that you will connect to your Siri Kit data. And that's a report that you will share with the makers directly. So that makers can connect to this Power BI report and see all their apps, all their flows across environments, have a link to access it directly, but also see some things that you're expecting from them as an admin. So don't share your apps with the entire tenant if you use security group instead to share only with
Yeah.
who needs to use it. Include your apps in solutions, include your flows in solution. These are your flows that are stopped. So you have all this data in the Power Automate portal for one environment, but as a maker, you don't really see all that data in one single place. So that's the objective of this template.
Mhm. This is very cool. I have to
And
say it. This is
we've
very
covered
cool.
all my gifts, I think, for today.
Yeah. Okay, okay. I will invite you again in a few months if you are able to craft new gifts for the community, because I think everybody who's involved in admin tasks really value these things, or at least, yeah, I'm not, but I've been somehow involved in the past, and I really see the value of it, because yeah, many times we know the poor platform, it's growing every day, and sometimes it's even hard to keep track of all the changes. um, but I think that eventually you end up in an alley in which there are some things that you want to know that the platform is not providing, and having these solutions that extend the poor platform, I think this is just super cool. Yeah, the power of the community is just great, and having you as a content creator now in your blog, I think it really adds up to the community in such a cool way for the governance topic. That I want to thank you, and I think everybody who's in this will thank you as well. Alberto said, Val, I have a first person to upload pages consumption template. I will share with you.
That's
Okay.
super cool. Mm.
Okay. Alberto, will we be seeing some of this on your YouTube channel? Maybe. Please let us know. We will be. Well, I have the notification bell activated myself, so I will know. But please let us know when you provide some of this, because yeah, again, sharing with the community always pays off. All right. We're 1 hour and 10 minutes, and I promised Val that it would be 1 hour, 15 minutes. I also have some other tasks to do. So we're coming to an end for the stream. But yeah, I want to say thanks to Val again for dropping by, for sharing this super cool stuff that you crafted based on your experience, and to avoid other people to go through some of the pains that you suffer in your experience as an admin. I wanted to bring the topic eventually during the live stream about managed environments,
Mm.
but it can get really really long. Discussing about managed environments, I know that, I know it for a fact. It can get a lot of
Mm.
debate, and maybe you guys on the chat can tell me just thumbs up or thumbs down about managed environments. Just go ahead and put it on the chat, because we don't have time to really dive into it. Maybe we do some other live stream some other day about it. But maybe Val, you can weigh in and say what are your feelings about managed environments.
I say the two. This is for the functionality, and this is for the license implication for the organization that, for me, it's like the organization that need it the most, and almost the organization that can't really afford it because they're still early in their adoption journey. So, but the functionality are spot on. Um,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. For me, well, my perspective on on the delivery side of things is good if if you're already using premium connectors and you're already using licensing it's kind of for free, you could say, because you're already it's already there. And yeah, especially from a citizen developer perspective, if you got the pipelines for Power Apps, that really helps having things in a better way than just manually, go from one environment to another and deploy it that way. It's more problematic than just having the pipeline. It just helps. But that's on the side of things where I usually say things. But I get that, licensing all those environments which are just Power Apps connected to SharePoint and that are not using any kind of premium license, I think, yeah, that can be quite some money to spend on for some features that you just said they are nice, but at the same time, it's about whether they're worth the money or not. But yeah, I think everybody has its own opinion. Even you are kind of conflicted about how you feel about the managed environments. I think it happens to all of us, and Alberto is kind of in the same approach that you are. But yeah, managed environments. It's still, for me, it's still also something that it's evolving. They have more features now than they had when they rolled them out at the very beginning, like with everything else. But it's really something that I think is the direction the platform is taking on Microsoft side. That's for sure.
100%. And I have nothing to say about the functionalities. I just feel if the access of managed environments was a little easier for those organizations not having too many premium licenses, I think that everyone will get some benefits from it, because the organization will then use this, and with managed environments, they'll be able to adopt even more the platform. So their licenses will also go up. And for Microsoft, it will also mean that more people will be using the product. So I think everyone will gain something if the access to those functionalities was a little bit easier. But from a functionality standpoint, and for the organization going all premium already, they've got all the incentives in the world to use managed environments.
Yeah, totally agree. Alberto is saying Alberto doesn't want us to end the stream. That's for sure. He says Philip Topness, who was here on the channel a few months back, argumented in this channel that the costs of the licensing is to support the resources that use the managed environment functionalities. And
I think that makes I think that makes sense. There's so much investment going for Microsoft in the governance that they need some ways to fund it. So if they invest more efforts in it, it costs more. They need to get some money. But I understand I really understand the idea. But this is why if you make it a little bit more easily accessible, you still get some money from it. More people use it. So I think overall, you probably get even more money and everyone is happier. That's kind of my opinion, but I'm not Microsoft and I'm not the one taking the shots here. Yeah.
Could totally be. I guess we'll never know, or Microsoft will never know, because they already made their call on this.
Hopefully we will.
Hopefully they change. Yes. Yeah. We'll never know. Now we are seeing some of controversy regarding the availability of Copilot. Because you have to pay the 30. Well, it changes. I guess it changes
300 seats,
depending on the country. Yes, but it's 100. Yes, you need 300 seats, and people are complaining about that, and people are asking for Microsoft to reconsider. Maybe it also happens with managed environments along the way. We'll see. But I just want to say that for many people, the experience with Power Platform is that you start with as a maker, just creating some applications with SharePoint. You need to ask no permissions. You need to get no license, and you get so used to all things are already included that the moment you have to pay for something, it's really annoying. But at the same time, it's like if you stop a little bit and think about it and say, hey, I got this much without paying anything additional. That now that I have to access this premium characters or the managed environments features, if I have to pay for it, maybe it's time to pay for it and to spend some money on make some investment on the platform to make it grow. It also depends on which stage you are in the adoption of the platform, which stage you are yourself as a maker, maybe as an admin or whatever. It depends on the scenario. But I don't licensing is a very topic that generates so much controversy. But in this case, I think this is just maybe more justified than in other cases. But again, I agree with you. Maybe it would be better adopted if they would decrease somehow the amount of money you have to invest on it. And then if you really enjoy the features, maybe you can get even more invested on it. But at the same time, it's just about, depending on the situation, the company, and so on. Anyway, Val, it's been an incredible pleasure to have you here. We can tell that you are experienced in admin and governance, and it was really, really nice to know that you started your blog, and it's really insightful, and it's really cool to have someone giving to the community so much, sharing solutions for free, just to help people and to avoid some pains for them that I myself really appreciate it, and I think everybody else in the community will appreciate it. So thank you for what you're doing and for dropping by to this live stream.
Thanks, Nacho. I really enjoyed today. So thanks again. I really appreciate the opportunity there. And it's nice to speak to you as always. So I really enjoyed this.
All right, Val, take care. Talk to you soon. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Okay, so that's it. Val Mazhar, great guy. He was, as you can see, he knows a lot about governance, and he's a great guy. Reach out to him if you have anything related to his blog or to his creations. As you can see here on the chat, some people challenged the solution, and people, and he tried and found some things. You can help him also testing some of the stuff he creates, and give him positive feedback, because I can tell you that as a content creator, it really gives us fuel to keep going and to keep creating content for you guys, which is something that we really do because we love doing it. Thank you. You can switch to Spanish if you want, not worries. Okay, that Alberto said that. Just want to say that, I'm changing to Spanish now because we are also on the end of the stream. Thank you everybody who speaks English here for showing up, or if you watch on demand, give a thumbs up and subscribe if you want. Usually we do things in Spanish, but sometimes maybe it comes again a live stream in English, so make sure you don't miss out. Muchas gracias a todos por estar, gracias por seguir ahí. Sé que hacerlo en inglés es un poco ir a contrapié, pero nada, muchas gracias sobre todo a los que normalmente estáis ahí. Espero que lo hayáis podido seguir bien en inglés, porque lo que nos ha traído Val hoy está muy chulo, sobre todo si eres un admin o estás en algún modelo de governance de Power Platform. Y nada, tener otra persona que está creando contenido, como también Alberto Castro, tenerlo también en la comunidad aportando es fantástico, es la magia de la comunidad, es realmente maravilloso. Y nada, a todos los que me seguís, pues ya sabéis, haré un stream pues cuando tenga sentido, una vez al mes o una vez cada 2 meses, un poco en función de las circunstancias. Y en cualquiera de los casos, pues si me seguís en YouTube y en LinkedIn principalmente, también en lo que se sigue llamando en mi corazón Twitter, pues ahí pues haré los anuncios pertinentes de cuando hacemos un live stream y demás, pero principalmente LinkedIn y YouTube, pues aquí tendréis los próximos directos anunciados. Así que muchas gracias a todos y nos vemos en el siguiente. Yo seguiré subiendo vídeos, tutoriales y movidas sobre el Power Platform, que es lo que más me gusta. Así que gracias a todos y nos vemos en la próxima.